I'd like to say welcome to each one of you, you visitors who haven't been here before. This is the interpersonal relationships class, and this morning's class is titled Closeness, Closeness in Relationships. Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Father in heaven, thank you for this good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to spend time with these young people. I just pray, Father, that you would be here with your Holy Spirit. We confess our need. I confess my need of your guidance and your direction this morning. Bless each one with their particular situations in life. And I just pray that you would meet needs this morning. In Christ's name, amen. Lieutenant Hiro Onada was the last Japanese soldier to surrender after World War II. He was left on the island Lubang in the Philippines in 1944, along with 3 other soldiers. They were left with the command to carry on the mission even if Japan surrenders. Eventually the others were killed or surrendered, but Onada continued his war alone. Through the years, he ignored messages from loudspeakers announcing Japan's surrender. Leaflets were dropped in the jungle begging him to surrender so he could return to Japan. During his 29-year private war, he killed at least 30 Philippine nationals. More than $500,000 were spent trying to locate him and convince him to surrender. Finally, on March 10, 1974, Onada surrendered his rusty sword after receiving a personal command from his former superior officer. His lonely war was finally over. When he returned to Japan as a prematurely aged man of 52, he made this comment: "Nothing pleasant during those 29 years in the jungle." Well, that was a bit of an understatement, but people can spend long years fighting lonely battles when they are determined to go it alone. People spend years battling secret sins and weaknesses and addictions when they could end the battle if they would let other people help them. We need each other for perspective, for accountability, for advice, for encouragement, and all of the other things that Christian friends add to our lives. Friendship and closeness are a good thing. I think all of us would probably say that. Everyone needs a friend, but many of us struggle with maintaining meaningful friendships. All of us here are involved in some kind of a relationship. We're married or we're part of a family of some type. We work, we go to church, but relationships are not always close. Dating does not ensure friendship. Marriage doesn't ensure friendship or closeness. You think they would, but they don't. Being a member of a church does not ensure friends or closeness. Closeness is separate from all of these relationships. Is closeness necessary in life? Volunteer and answer. Is it necessary to be able to be close to someone? No, you can go through life without being close to anybody. And there's some that do. They pretty much are hermits. They don't ever get up close to anybody. For whatever reason, closeness is not something that they can seem to manage. But it sure is nice to have close friends. It sure adds meaning to life. It adds the kinds of stability that we need. And especially as Christians, we need those Christian friends. Having friends makes life pleasant and enjoyable, adds value, takes away a lot of loneliness, makes joys more enjoyable and trials less so. Life is not pleasant all by yourself like that Japanese soldier after the war ended. I'd like for you to start thinking a little bit before we begin the class this morning. Some questions for you. They're not intended for you to answer out loud or anything, but be thinking about them. The first one: what are some of the rewards of having close friends? Be thinking about that. What are some of the rewards that you would see? What is it that separates people? What is it that separates people from each other? Why do we hide from other people? All of you hide from other people, especially some people. Why? Why are you hiding? How can I make others feel safe enough to open up to friendship? And this is going to be probably the last major point that I'm going to make this morning is how can I make other people feel safe around me? Because sometimes we don't realize it, but we're hostile. And people don't feel safe around us, and so they're never going to get close to us. Because every time they come close, we bite their head off or whatever. Okay, I want to begin with some scriptural background. We're going to go through these quickly. This is the context is Saul and David and Jonathan. As soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. If you've read the story of Jonathan and David, you will remark about that friendship. It's a remarkable friendship. It's amazing, actually, that it could happen. It says that the soul of Jonathan and David were knit together. Jonathan loved David as himself. They made a covenant together. And Jonathan gave David a beautiful gift, and that was the gift of friendship. A closeness that is extraordinary for most of us. What are some of the qualities in that friendship that made that happen? What makes a friend a deep source of enjoyment rather than just an acquaintance? What brings on that attachment that close friends share? I want to talk about that. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. Romans 12, 15, and 16. This is from the Message, the paraphrase by Eugene Peterson. Laugh with your happy friends when they are happy. Share tears when they're down. Get along with each other. Don't be stuck up. Make friends with nobodies. Don't be the great somebody. I like the way that Mr. Peterson paraphrases this passage. But there's some really good truths there. If you want to be a friend, laugh with them when they're happy. Share tears with them when they're down. Get along with each other. Don't be stuck up. Make friends with those people who others seem to avoid for some reason. You'll be rewarded for doing that. Sharing laughter, sharing tears, getting along. Proverbs 27:9 says, oil and perfume make the heart glad, and the sweetness of a friend comes from his earnest counsel. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fail, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he fails and has not another to lift him up. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. Some advice from Ecclesiastes. Okay, the motivations to closeness. Before I start listing some of them, could you share some that you would see? What are some of the motivations for having a close friend that you would have? Not necessarily the ones that you think I'm going to say.
You have someone to learn from.
Someone to learn from. Excellent.
You have a common task or goal.
You what?
You have a common task or goal.
You have a common task or goal. You share things. Someone else.
You balance you out and help
Balance.
you know when you're scared or something.
The balance. That is an excellent answer. You've heard of the term eccentric, right? Is there a chance that someone who is a loner tends to be more eccentric? Yeah, absolutely. The eccentric means out of round. You get out of round, and when you move, you kind of wobble. And if we're alone, we don't share well with people, we tend to get that way. And they cut off some of our rough edges when we do get with them. I'm going to list a few of these quickly. Number one, warmth. It's a cold world out there. And when we have friends, there is a certain warmth in our spirit. The second one is understanding. Someone who can understand us. A lot of times we're looking for understanding. We want people to understand where we're coming from. And close friends do that because they learn to know us. Thirdly is depth of experience. Our experience in life is going to be a lot deeper as we share it with people rather than trying to do it all by ourselves. We will have a lot more depth. There will be so many things that come out. Christians were never meant to live the existence of a monk. Do you ever think about that? What it would be like to live like a monk out in a cave somewhere? I guess. You do a lot of talking to yourself. Number 4, growth. As we share together, we will grow in our relationships, in our Christian experience, in our depth of life. Okay, some of the barriers to closeness. Barriers here are defined as whatever we do or don't do to protect us from exposure to help us avoid whatever we fear. Barriers. All of us have natural boundaries. And in the U.S., Americans, our boundaries are a little bigger than Europeans or some other cultures. We like people to get about up to here and then don't get any closer. Okay, those are natural boundaries, if you will. Barriers are those things that we put up to protect ourselves. Those things that we put up to protect us from other people. And I'm going to hazard a statement here this morning that all of you have some barriers around you. All of you have put up some barriers. Why would we put up barriers? Anybody?
Not everyone is worth being close to.
Again?
Not everyone is worth being close to.
Not everyone is worth being close to, so we put up a barrier. Yes. Okay. Someone else.
Protect ourselves.
To protect ourselves. Why? Because we've been hurt. That's often the case. Fear. Fear causes us to put barriers up. Yes, it does. Defensive layers, we can call them. And it looks something like this. We put up shells in order to protect ourselves from other people. A lot of times it's because we've been hurt in some relationship. Or maybe just a fearful person. We just don't know how to relate to other people, so we put up barriers. Do they work? Anybody? Do these kinds of barriers work?
Maybe for a while.
For a while at least. Unless somebody's very persistent, right? Then sometimes they can break through those, yes. The reason we use them is because they work. We've discovered that we can set up these barriers and they work for us. The barriers that we use. I've got 2 lists here. First one, we're going to look at unacceptable layers that we put out there. Unacceptable barriers. Socially unacceptable barriers. And here's one that some of you are using, especially you guys. A certain cockiness. You put out an air of, I'm it, okay? I'm confident. I can do anything. And, so you put up this idea of a certain cockiness out there. And does it work as a barrier? Yes, it does. I want to get close to you. I don't want you for a friend because you're obnoxious, okay? I don't want to get close to you, okay? Another one that's put out there is abrasive behavior. Stupid stuff that you do. Stupid things that you do that irritate people. Very effective barrier that you can put out there that just keeps people away. Another one is being a show-off. Being a general show-off, it can really set up those barriers. Okay, some socially acceptable layers that probably a lot of you may have found to be useful. One is struggling humility. You put out an air of struggling humility. Some of you here do. And you're just, I never get this right. I never am able to, I can't succeed. I'm just I'm no good. So you put out this air of struggle all the time. And so that's not really attractive to people. And that's kind of a barrier that goes around you. Constant cheerfulness. Okay. Some of you put out this barrier of constant cheerfulness. You are always cheerful. Can you always be like that? No, you're not. I can assure you, you're not always cheerful. But you act like it. And it turns people off. Turns people away. Trying to be a super achiever. Okay? That's a barrier that you can put around yourself that doesn't work very well for relationships. I'm guilty. Trying to be a super achiever. Quietness. Just a really, really quiet individual can be a barrier. People just have tried maybe to get close to you and they can't because you've got that around you. Somebody here want to venture to give us another one or two of these barriers that you've seen used perhaps, or maybe that you use very effectively. I can always add some to mine. Okay. Be thinking about that. The goal then in closeness is to take down barriers. And that's the kind of the goal of this class this morning, taking down barriers. And I have 5 steps to taking down barriers. And I borrowed these, using them from John Copeland's book on relationships. I'm trying to remember the name of the book, but I want to give credit for that. Number 1 is honesty. You've got to admit that you are doing it. Honesty. In order to take down barriers, we must admit that they're there and that we are in charge of them. Okay? That we are in charge of those barriers. We put them up. We are pushing people away. We are blaming others. We're afraid that people will see us as we really are if we take down the barriers. We fear being to blame. We fear being nothing. We fear being ugly. We fear losing control with no fences. We had control of the fences and did not want to lose them. Some of us who tend to be a little fearful by nature, that's what we do. We put up these barriers because we're in charge of those barriers. Ain't nobody going to get through there and expose me for what I am. Nobody's getting close to me, okay? If I can put up this barrier, I can kind of shield myself from exposure. So the first step to taking it down is admit that. Admit that I am doing that. That's what's happening. I've been hurt and now I've got barriers there. Second step. Relationships. We need help. We need help taking down barriers. So we've got to reach out to people. Reach out to people. We can't do it on our own. We reach out to God first. His security, His control. Finding our acceptance in God's relationship with God, relationship with others. Acknowledging our feelings to ourselves and to others. We need to reach out. The second step is relationship. Third step is healing. A lot of times barriers are up in our lives because we've been injured in some way and we need healing. God is a great healer. Maybe we've been mocked at some time in our past. We've been belittled. We've been abused even, some of you, in our past. And we've been hurt and we need healing. We need healing that only God can give. Jesus said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, speaking of himself, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and the recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Barriers can not only shelter from hurt, but also prevent healing. He wants us to bring the hurt to him for healing. Experiencing God's healing can take away some of the fear of getting hurt. Number 4, we need cleansing. Some of the things that are in your life that can prevent closeness is some hidden things that have not been cleansed. Some secret sin that hasn't come to the light. And Jesus promises, God promises to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Number 5, forgiveness. And I'll be very frank with you, this is probably one of the biggest ones to barriers, is forgiveness. Somebody's hurt you big time. You have been hurt big time by somebody, and they didn't apologize. They didn't even admit it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can forgive by the grace of God. It takes time. Sometimes it takes continual time. Speaking from my own experience, it takes time. You've got to just commit it to God and say, God, I don't know why this happened to me. I don't know why, what their motive is, but they're yours. And I'm not going to hold it against you anymore. And that's the way to take down some of those barriers. And it's not easy. I'll be frank with you. It's not easy. Okay, I debated this morning to spend time with this or not, but there's something called the fear dance. And I have experienced it. Well, I shouldn't say maybe. I guess I have. I've seen it especially in relationships around me. Maybe in my own. I saw it in my parents. They struggled with this fear dance. And they danced a lot of their lives away in this fear dance. And what the fear dance is noise, if you want to put it that way. It's drama. How many of you know what drama in a relationship is? Yeah, there's drama going on. And because this drama goes on and on, there's no time to get close to anybody. You can't get close to anybody because this drama is going on. This noise in your relationship is just going on and on. And Gary Smalley, in his book, The DNA of Relationships, and by the way, if you're really into this subject, I recommend this book, really, Gary Smalley's book, The DNA of Relationships. He's got some really good insights in there. The fear dance. Let's try to illustrate it like this. You've got this picture in your hand up. I hurt. Okay. Something has happened. Somebody hurt me. Okay. Somebody said an unkind word to me. Somebody stepped all over me, and I've been hurt. There's something in my life that is a big thing in my life. I'll just use an example. I want respect. A lot of guys do. That's the big thing in their life. They want respect. That is a big deal to them. I'm hurt, and now I've been disrespected. I fear disrespect. So I react to that hurt and that fear. And you hurt. Okay? This is what drama is all about. Reaction. Somebody pushed my button. And I react because they got my button right. Okay, they got the right button. And now I react to them. And now you hurt. You want whatever it is that you want in your life, whatever is the big deal, and you fear whatever it is you fear. And now you react and you hurt me back. It's called the fear dance. And I observed it in my parents. They got to know each other's buttons very, very well, and they would push it. And their drama went on. The drama goes on. The drama goes on in your life. So how does the fear dance work? Let's look at an event from the lives of my son Greg and his wife Erin. This is Gary Smalley. One night while Erin was working the evening shift at the hospital, Greg was bored, and since he loves to decorate the house, he decided to change the arrangement of the master bedroom furniture. Erin usually loves what he does. He moved the bed, repositioned the knickknacks in their shelves, relocated the dresser, and generally gave the room a new look. Then he went to bed and turned out the lights. When Erin got home hours later, she didn't switch on the lights because she didn't want to wake Greg. She tiptoed into the bedroom and immediately smashed her shin on a table that hadn't been there when she left for work. She tripped and crashed into a pair of antique skis that were placed against the wall. The skis in turn tumbled onto a shelf containing all of her beloved Precious Moments figurines, shattering most of her treasures, which continued to fall until they smacked onto Greg's head. The combination of breaking glass, falling objects, and screams awakened Greg. He bolted from bed, forgot that he had moved everything, and ran straight into the wall, blooding his nose. Not one of your typical nights. When the lights came on, they began shouting at each other. Erin criticized Greg for moving the furniture without first talking with her about it. Her angry words made Greg feel like a failure. Greg minimized Erin's concerns and defended his decision to redecorate the bedroom. His words made her feel as if her opinions didn't matter. The shouting and defending and sarcasm continued, and the fear dance was in full swing. Do you see it? They pushed each other's fear buttons. Erin pushed Greg's fear of failure button. Greg pushed Erin's fear of invalidation button. It's all they needed for a wild night of dancing. Drama in relationships. Can you get close to someone when there's all that drama going on? No. Why does it keep on going on? Because you get used to it. And you get, well, this is just the way our relationship is. I'm not going to spend time with this because I don't have it this morning. But there are buttons. And I would like for you to, in your time later on, your handout has these buttons. Go down and find your button and circle it, okay, your big button. And then we want whatever it is. Some of you want acceptance. That's a big deal in your life. That's what you want. So you fear rejection. And so somebody pushes the button and you feel rejected, and then what happens? You withdraw. There you are. You can find these going down over these buttons. Some of the common reactions that are out there are withdrawal. I want to show a raise of hands of how many of you just withdraw from a relationship. I'm fighting that fight. I've said that. That's not a battle I'm going anywhere near. It's not worth it. I'm out of here. Sarcasm. Some of you are very good with this. Escalation. The battle gets bigger. Anger. Blaming. Boy, have I heard that one. Blaming going on in relationships. Manipulation. Saw that as well. Have seen that. Can we break the routine? That's the question. Can we break the routine? I hurt, I want, I fear, I react, you hurt, and so on. Can we break that routine? Yes. Yes, we can. Yes, we can break that routine. Do you dance? Have you been part of the fear dance? Do your fear buttons get pushed? Do you know how to push back? It's the only dance many relationships know. It's dysfunctional and ridiculous, but it's strangely comforting because we get used to it. What are we going to do to break the fear dance? Okay. I I want to answer that. Take personal responsibility. How do we break it? Take personal responsibility. Number one, look below the surface issue. There's a drama going on in your life. Look below the surface issue. Is this really what should be going on? What's the real problem here? The externals are never really the problem. It's some of those core things down inside that are the problem. Number two, it takes two to tango. Two of you to dance. Yes, it does. You don't react, you react with kindness. You don't push their button. Okay? You don't do it. You try to understand what are they saying below the surface? What are they really saying? Okay? They're not just trying to get you riled up. Maybe they are, I don't know. Hopefully they're not. Take responsibility for your buttons, the things that you can control. Take responsibility for those. You can't control what others do. Take responsibility for your buttons. Number four, don't look to others to make you happy. Right? They can't do it. They can help sometimes, but you need to take responsibility. Number five, forgiveness heals relationships. And we talked about that a bit. Forgiveness heals relationships. Finally, create a safe environment. If you want to be close in your relationships, you're going to have to create, between the two of you, you're going to have to create a safe environment. An environment where this drama is not happening, all these other distractions aren't happening, and you can, in a safe environment, you can have closeness. When people feel safe. Safety allows closeness to happen in relationship. It's the fertile ground in which relationships bloom and flourish. It allows us to get out from behind the facades that we have constructed around ourselves for personal protection. It allows us to drop the masks that we have been wearing. It allows us to breathe freely. Number one, respect the wall. Understand why people put up barriers. Respect the wall that is around people. Walls are always built by people who feel threatened. They're trying to preserve themselves. Instead of trying to break down the wall, we need to provide every reason for the owner to take it down themselves. Imagine this brick wall that somebody has placed around themselves because they've been hurt. You can't go running in like a bull in a china shop and break that down. It doesn't work. You've got to provide a safe environment so that they will start taking those down. They will take brick by brick. They will start taking those walls down, and you'll be able to have some closeness there. Number two, honor others. Show respect to others. Make them feel valuable. Honor brings security. Number three, suspend judgment. Suspending judgment on why people are doing things. I've been so guilty of judging quickly about why people are doing it. Suspend that. Take that away because you don't really know. Opt for compassion. Compassion brings security, allows people to take down those walls. Number four, value differences. Value the differences that you have. That's what makes friends so interesting, is looking at those differences, and don't judge them for them. And finally, be trustworthy. Be trustworthy. Don't deceive people. Be trustworthy. Be that person that people can trust and they can open up to and they can get close to, because you're not going to mess with them. You're not going to throw them under the bus. They know that. You're not going to throw them under the bus, and so they can get close to you. They can share. You can share more freely if you're trustworthy. That's it then for this morning's class. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking part in the class. Closeness, overcoming barriers in relationships. God bless. Defensiveness. These are all common reactions out there. And you have a list that you can fill in with that. You could actually take some of them also from that chart.